Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Richard Fortus. Guys.
All right. How are you? Good. Hi guys. Richard. This is my Paoletti guitar. So, thank you. I think so too. So, should we talk about the guitar?
Why don't we start off with...
you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Let's see. Are we? Yeah. Let me see if we're live here. Good, right?
Okay, so Richard, give us a little background on Paoletti Guitars, how you came to know them, and how this became your signature guitar.
Okay, so Paoletti approached me, and they told me about their wine barrel series, which this is actually made from 150-year-old wine barrels. The wood, which is chestnut. And chestnut is not your typical guitar building wood. It's not considered a tone wood. So I was very skeptical at first, thinking, oh, this is just a sort of gimmicky, you know, like they had wine barrels and they thought, well, let's use those. But they're phenomenal sounding. They're really just, even acoustically, it's a very resonant wood. And really very unique sounding wood as well. Every wood, every different type of wood has its own character. So, you know, maple's going to sound bright and thin, whereas mahogany's going to add like warmth and lower mids. Alder's going to sound a particular way, and they're all going to interact with pickups differently. So I was a little hesitant at first, but I was really impressed with how much low-end tightness there is to it, and this wood, and as well as the top end. There's a lot of definition with these guitars, and that's something that is you struggle with as a guitar player, finding a good amount of clarity, but still making it big sounding, you know, with a solid body. So I was really impressed by that, and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. And I wanted to do like a Les Paul Jr. type of single cutaway style guitar, but with a telly pickup in the bridge. And I wanted to do a left-handed telly bridge because it reverses the angle of when Leo Fender first started, and that's what this pickup is actually based on, is a 51 Nocaster, which I have a 51, and I love the sound of that pickup. So I wanted it to be like that, which was actually when Leo started using those pickups in the first Telecasters, the Nocaster, before they were called Telecasters, they were actually lap steel pickups. So they're a little bit hotter than a normal, what we know as a telly pickup. So we recreated that. So it's like a 7.6 Alnico 2 magnet. That was what I wanted them to start with. And then I also wanted a P90 in the neck, like a special. And I wanted a left-handed headstock. Now, the reason I wanted the left-handed bridge is because it reverses the angle of that pickup. Are there guitar players here, or am I just speaking Japanese? Okay. We'll get through this, and then we'll get to like what Axel's like. So by reversing the angle, you're adding more tightness and attack on the lower strings because of where it is and where the harmonics are going to be with it angled this way. Leo angled it this way, which made the bottom strings a little darker and duller, less harmonics, less overtones. And the top strings had more overtones, were a little brighter and tinnier, which seems counterintuitive to me. It seems backwards. So I always loved Hendrix's guitar sound, obviously, right? So why was Hendrix's tone different than mine? I always wondered when I was a kid. Well, and that was mainly because he was Jimi Hendrix and I wasn't. But on top of that, when you start thinking about it, he was a left-handed guitar player, and he was playing a right-handed guitar and just flipping it upside down. And so his pickup was backwards. It was angled the other direction. His headstock was backwards, which creates more tension on the low strings. So, because the scale is longer, so the distance from here to here is much different than from here to here, right? So, in doing it this way, you've got more thump on the low end. So you've got brighter, it's thumpier, you know, there's a... And that's, Hendrix's guitar tone was always very piano-like on the low end, you know. So that's why I wanted to recreate that. I love that thick low end sound. And the other benefit is that on the top end, with less tension, your notes are going to be easier to bend on top. So, because there's less tension, right? So that's why I wanted to go with a left-handed headstock and a left-handed bridge. And it was sort of, I think, a design flaw on Leo's part. He did many genius things. That was like sort of seemed always backwards to me. And for those of you that are Firebird fans, Firebirds have the same type of thing going on with the strings, with the longer scale. And there's a lot of tension on those strings, which is why Firebirds sound great. They're just very awkward to carry. I always thought. I love Firebirds though. And I've amassed a fairly large collection of vintage guitars, and I was really, really pleased with this wood. It's just a phenomenal sounding instrument. I'm really, really happy with it. But the magic of this guitar, I think, is in the electronics. And I've done a lot of experimenting over the years with different values of capacitors, different with pots, the different values of pots and how that affects the tone. And the most important thing to me is being able to roll the volume down, because I use single channel amps. So this little tube amp I'm playing through now, wide open, is really aggressive and pretty gainy. And then as I drop the volume down, it gets into, so it goes from more, to me, wide open is more like a P90 type of mid-focus sound. And then as I back the volume down just a little bit, it gets more into telly territory. As I keep going lower and lower, it gets chimier and prettier sounding, which... I mean, that's all that tone is coming from the volume pot. So just going from, and then dropping the volume down. Yeah, there's so much tone just in the volume. And when I'm playing live, I'm constantly, both Slash and I are always switching back and forth between pick and fingers. Obviously there I was playing mostly with my fingers because I dropped my pick. But we're constantly switching back and forth. And always on the volume pot. Because there's so many different sounds within your volume pot. And a lot of modern guitar players sort of forget that, or they don't learn that part of the guitar. You know, it's just, I guess it's a different time, because in like the 70s and when we were kids and listening to music, those guys were all doing that. And there's something really organic about doing it that way as opposed to channel switching, you know, with your head, with your amp. And it's all available right there if you have the right guitar that's wired properly and the right amp that's going to respond correctly. You can't do that with a modeling amp, you know. They have their place, and you know, if you're in Muse or in Metallica and you've got just super heavy sound and then super clean sound, you can use different channels and you just leave your guitar wide open all the time. For us, it doesn't work, because on a modeling amp, when you drop the volume down, it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't get all pretty and sparkly and clean, and not necessarily less volume, but just cleaner. And that's what I do. That's what I use. And on stage, like, that's what's important to me, that a guitar really react when I go from my pick to my fingers, when I move the volume, when I change the tone knob a bit. You know, I want to really be able to hear that. So that's my spiel on the Paoletti, and I'm really, really proud of this guitar. I think if you're a fan of Tellies, this pisses all over any Telecaster out there. I really believe that. I mean, I'll put it up. Even I have like I said, I have a lot of vintage guitars. I have a lot of vintage Tellies. This is my favorite sounding Telly that I have. And I love having a P90 in the neck as well. And the combination, the balance between, there's a lot of what we were just listening to is a balance between the two pickups. It was both pickups. So I think they really play well together.
Now, Richard, we haven't seen you play this guitar on stage with G&R yet, correct?
Not yet, yeah.
Okay.
Just because it's new to me. I've been using it on gigs, and I've been using it when I have sat in with other people or when I've done gigs with different bands. But yeah, this would be the first tour I do it with.
Yeah. Now, how does the tone on this guitar compare to tone with the regular guitars that you're used to? I know you play some Gretsch and some other stuff. How does this stack up next to your regular stuff?
Gretsch's have a very unique tone. Yeah, I know that's the yeah. Sounds like an RF frequency thing.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
This is what I would use this guitar for, and what I plan on using it for is where I'm normally playing Telly or something with a single coil, which there's a few specific songs that I like to have that brighter sound. The Gretches have a very, you know, I'm really always trying to, I think my function in the band is to really support Slash and what he's doing and complement him. So I'm trying to build my tone around his, and he has a very specific thing that he is, I mean, you know, he's a legend, and there's a reason why he does what he does, you know, and that's his tone. So I'm really just supporting him and complementing his tone, or at least trying to.
Now, has he had a chance to hear you play this? And
he has not. No, we haven't. No, because we haven't been in rehearsals. We haven't been in rehearsals since we finished this guitar. So yeah, that's where I'm at with this on this coming tour. I think it's going to really, because I know where I like to use Tellys, and this would replace that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you some G&R questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask the audience, by show of hands, who's a guitar player? And how
All right.
many of you guys, by show of hands, is just they're just G&R fans? Got a few
All right.
of those too. Okay. Well, we're gonna
All
do
are
some-
welcome.
If you guys would like to ask some questions at some point, we are going to pass the mic and let you ask some questions from Richard. But so tell us what's going on. The tour's coming up. I think you said in September, right?
Yeah,
Can you
we
let us
start
know
in
what
September.
to expect?
September, October into November is all we're going to do this year.
And is it so it's just U.S. then?
Yeah, in Mexico, I think.
Okay. And you are coming to Vegas, I understand.
We're ending in Vegas, which is where it all sort of began.
you
Which is our
said-
first shows were here. The
Everybody's
first
got
shows of the tour.
VIP passes with backstage.
Everybody here.
You guys all right with that?
You get a pass, and you get a pass. Look under your seats.
I tell you what, get ready to be spoiled because the Coliseum at Caesars is one of the best places in town to play.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
Yeah, I've
man.
not been there. We did a residency. We did a residency at the Hard Rock, or the Joint.
Right,
Yeah.
right inside the Hard Rock.
We were there for like a month. Yeah, it was twice. Yeah. One of them I don't remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
Richard, you've been with G&R since 2001, I think,
Uh-huh.
2002?
Yeah.
And
End of 2000.
that's a long time, man, in that band. Tell us about
I know.
the...
You think I'd learn?
Tell us about your experience from beginning to now and what it's like to play in the biggest rock band
it's
in the
a
world.
very different band now than when I started, and I think it just keeps getting better. This is the best. I mean, this is just amazing. This last tour has just been incredible, and it's really a lot. I really enjoy playing with Slash, and I'm constantly impressed by him as a player. He does something really amazing that I think this exemplifies why he's such a legend. I mean, not to harp on Hendrix, but he was obviously very important to me. And you listen to old bootleg concerts of Hendrix, and from night to night he'd play the same song and completely different. And to me, that's like a genius, because that really, to hit that level where you're just really pushing yourself every night to be as pure and expressive as possible, Yeah. And Slash walks out in front of a stadium every night and plays a solo that is completely unique. He doesn't know what he's going to play when he walks out. And I just think that's phenomenal, because it's easy as a musician, as a guitar player, when you're improvising, you get into patterns where you're playing like the same theme every night, and you do slight variations and might differ a little bit, but you've got your stock licks that you're going to play, and he really he has no idea what he's going to play when he walks out, and that's really cool. And it's different every night. Some nights it's absolutely hair-raisingly amazing, and other nights it's like, but I mean, he's always great, he's always Slash, but some nights it's just like, wow. And that's I think what makes him a legend.
Yeah, Slash definitely has an iconic signature tone. Do you find it
Yeah.
difficult? I mean, you mentioned earlier about playing something that's complementary to his tone. Do you almost get lost in that as opposed to creating your own sound? Are you so focused on, complementing what Slash is doing?
There's a balance, because there are times, I mean, he's very gracious with me, and I think we really enjoy challenging each other and pushing each other. So he gives me a lot of opportunities to play. And it's a nice back and forth that we have on a lot of nights where there's different parts. It makes the show different every night because we're always pushing each other to do something different and to it's music is a conversation, so it's great that we have that ability to have that conversation on stage every night. Where there's a part in the show where we do. Actually, this started here in Vegas, because the first show that we did, where we did a big venue, was here. We did 2 nights at the T-Mobile, and that Axl, we did one club show before at the Troubadour in Los Angeles, Axl fell and broke his foot on stage. So when we got here, he was in a chair, in a cast, and restricted to being in a chair. So it was a very interesting experience, you know. I think, and I don't think I think that he thought, okay, well, I have to do this. I have to figure it out. I'll just go out and do it in a chair, and that's what I'm going to have to do. And I think it didn't really occur to him until we got on stage at that arena and to do sound check, and he was like, oh, this is not going to be easy, you know, because he's constantly running around, you know. So I think, anyways, we started that. We were doing sound check there, trying to figure out how we're going to get him to the chair, how we're going to get, you know, move the chair around. How we're trying to figure this out the day of the show at sound check. And he's like, man, you guys, I'm going to need you to do something while the piano goes out for November Rain, and for me to get out there, to be wheeled out there and onto the piano bench, like, we need to do something during that time. So Slash and I look at each other, and he's like, what about Wish You Were Here? And I thought, okay, let's do it. And so we just started playing it. And he started it, you know, with the rhythm part of the... So we just started playing it, and then I came in with the melody part and started playing the melody, and then he played the solo, and then we just went back and forth over those changes, improvising. And we did this at soundcheck, and then when we finished, like, all the crew stopped and applauded. Like, and the crew never applauds; they just don't care. They're there to do a job, and they were like. Yeah, so we were like, okay, this is going to work. So we continued it, and we've always done that right before November Rain on this tour. And that's a really special moment because it's different every night. And it really is dependent on, you know, Slash, I think, both of us, I mean, we what we're going through in our day-to-day lives really speaks to what we're going to play on stage. You know, it just sort of comes out. So it really is, every night's different. And that's what music is about, I think, you know. Because otherwise you're just playing the same songs and the same notes and the same solos every night. And really that's when it becomes a job, you know. You know, I've done tours, I've done pop tours like that where you're just playing the same thing every night. It's just no fun. You know?
Well, hey, Richard, what I'd like to do at this point, if you folks have some questions out there, I'm going to pass the mic here in a second. But before we do that, can we get just a quick another sample of that Paoletti?
Yeah, sure. What do you guys want to hear? Let's see. Street Oh, you know, when somebody asked me about this last night, but at this other seminar I was doing, when we were doing the, I know this has been documented on film, but when we played that, when we did the residency here, I used to do a solo, and this guy asked me about last night. I used to do this finger picking thing. that's where this guitar, I think, really that when I'm just dropping the volume down, and it really has that telly clack to it, you know.
Yeah.
I love country guitar. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of country songs all the time, but I love country guitar playing. But yeah, so that's just the volume back down, and then wide open, it still does. So that's where my guitar verse-wise would sit, like on a heavy song. I'm gonna back it down to about 7 o'clock. And there's a lot of definition in the notes, and then when you are wide open, it sounds more like that P90 type sound.
I noticed when you're playing the heavier stuff, it doesn't muddy up.
Yeah.
Notes.
And that's the great thing about single coils. You know, you have to contend with the noise, you have to contend with the brightness. A lot of times I'll back down just a little bit, like I was on my tone knob, just a touch, to take that telly bite out of it. Mm-hmm. But I love tellies through, big tube amps.
Yeah.
I think they sound great.
Well, hey guys, we'd like to open up the floor. Don't be shy. Carly's got the mic in the back, so if you'd like to ask a question, please do raise your hand. Richard Fortus, right down here, Carly. We're recording this, so we've got to pass this mic.
Yeah.
This is the mic?
Yep, just right at the
That's an interesting mic.
Hello.
Is
it working?
You can't hear it. It's just recording.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. I think everybody's heard rumors of new G&R material possibly coming
I
up.
have heard these rumors.
My question
I
to
read
you
this
was,
last
is
night.
there, and maybe you can't answer this, I'm hoping you can, but is there new songwriting coming up with Guns N' Roses, and even more importantly, are you involved in it?
Yeah. We're all, we don't like to be real public. There's like a very, we're not real forthcoming with that type of stuff. It's like, we were talking about that earlier. It's like, there's a great, when we were kids growing up, it was like there was this mystique around rock and roll, and I think that's missing nowadays, because everyone's so public with their Instagram stories, and I miss that a lot of times. Like I don't want to necessarily see Mick Jagger practicing his dance moves, I mean, it's, I don't know. That's just me. There was a thing like when I was a kid, like we were talking about, there was like Led Zeppelin didn't seem like real people. Somebody's at the door. Led Zeppelin didn't seem like real people. They seemed like gods, Right. They seemed like so much larger than life. Kiss seemed like, these giants, like these space creatures, And not that I want to be a space creature, but it's like there's that element of where I don't really want to know too much, I don't want to know what Bob Dylan's really like, I want to keep that mystique, and I think that we sort of embrace that, and I don't feel like many bands do. But
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, no worries. But I will say this band definitely should record because it's kick-ass. I mean, the band right now is just, it's such an honor to be working with these guys, and it's such a tight vibe and unit, that we have to do something.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else?
Hey,
Pass
Richard.
the mic. Yeah.
Hey, Richard, thanks for being here. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for having me.
One more down? Okay. My question is, how do you approach practice and keeping your elbow and wrist and all that other stuff healthy so you can go at it day after day?
Do you have elbow issues?
I do.
With this right here?
Actually, right here.
Oh, okay. Because Slash and I both have, see that weird muscle?
Uh-huh.
Like that's...
I get some pain there, but it's mainly on that ulnar area of the bone.
Yeah, it's something that I constantly contend with. I carry a Theragun on the road with me, and Slash does as well. He doesn't have a Theragun, but we're constantly working that because it tightens up. And which gets to the other part of your question. When we're on the road, we play all the time. Like mainly because we're sitting in our hotel rooms and we're sort of trapped and confined. I mean, when my family's out, we'll go out and see stuff. And I'm out every day. I'll go running every day. And then I'm in the gym, and then, but then the rest of the time I'm sitting in my room for the most part, or sitting backstage. And so we're constantly playing. Right. It's just because that's, at home, life gets in the way, and I'm dad, I'm not. I have my time where I'm working, and then, which is doing sessions or producing stuff, or, and I'm playing, but I'm not practicing really, But then at night, a lot of times, like after everybody's asleep, I sit and watch TV and play. Yeah. But on the road, all the time. Yeah. It's like nonstop. So that, doing an hour sound check, doing 4 hours on stage, you start to fatigue,
Just as an FYI, I found this thing called the Wave Tool, and it's just a scraping device that you can use right by your joints.
Just to break up the fascia.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what the Theragun does for me. Okay. And it's like a drill almost, that breaks up fascia incredibly well. It's the best thing I've found.
Okay. Does that push sound into it? Is that what that one is?
No.
Okay.
It's actual just like back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
The guys here at the physical therapy in Vegas have a sound tool that
Right,
pushes.
right. I've done that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Anything that breaks up the fascia, which is the coating that surrounds the muscle that atrophies and tightens up and then causes inflammation or pain.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Good question. Anybody else?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
It's actually more of a request.
And he's got a mic, so you guys.
What are the chances we can hear like some classic G&R riffs on the Paoletti?
Oh, you guys! I mean, those songs are meant to be played with a band.
Yeah.
You gotta.
I tried, guys.
You guys are gonna hear that in September.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just played a bunch of stuff I like to play. The country stuff.
Yeah, that was cool. That little, it sounded almost kind of rockabilly, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, put a little slapback on there and be good to go. I love the clean sound of a overdriven amp turned down. I just think it's, it's just a cool sound. Because you have the natural tube compression, but at a cleaner sound. Do you have a question?
Were you on the Chinese Democracy album?
I was. Yeah. Yeah.
What song? Did you play like certain songs?
Yeah. In fact, I know I played on the first pressings. I wasn't credited on a lot of them. I was only credited on a few. And then the next subsequent pressings, they corrected that. But yeah, I don't remember all the specific songs I played on, but.
Now, who did you play with before G&R?
Before G&R, well, I had a band when I was a kid, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I grew up. And when I was 14, 15, I had a band with some high school friends, and we ended up becoming very popular in the Midwest, and we'd play all around the college circuit, and not so much, it was more of like what at that time was considered alternative music. We had real punk rock roots, and that's where we were at. And that band was called Pale Divine. We ended up signing with Atlantic Records, and we toured opening for a band. In the U.S., we toured supporting a band called the Psychedelic Furs. And then those guys would ask me to sit in with them every night after our set, and so I'd go up and sit in with them, and then I ended up joining that band, and then ended up starting a band with the singer called Love Spit Love, and we did 2 albums. And I had moved to New York because that's where they were based, and started doing session work. And I did a few tours. I would do tours with different people, but really I was so busy doing sessions that it paid much better than being on the road. And I was working a lot, so I couldn't really justify touring at that time. But then I did some. I did like Enrique Iglesias, like when he was huge, and then I did other tours out of just wanting to do it because I love the artist. So I toured with like Thin Lizzy, which for a guitar player, that's like the ultimate, you know, to play with Scott Gorham and stuff. That was a highlight of my career. And then I did like, I've toured with guys like Crystal Method and BT, which are both electronic bands. I've toured with Rihanna, you know, but for the most part I was doing session work, and then I had a company that did, because in New York you do a lot of, when you're doing sessions, you're doing a lot of TV music, you're doing a lot of hip hop records, and then you're doing a lot of advertisements, TV ads, so music for ads. And then I started getting into the writing element of that, and then started my own company where I was creating music for TV ads. And so that's where I came from. Like I said, I was doing a lot of session stuff, and then ended up joining them. And fortunately, because nobody makes money, no one really, it's hard to make a living, it's really hard to make a living now doing session work, because it's all dried up, because record labels don't spend money on music anymore, because it doesn't generate, people aren't buying music, you know, people are renting music. And so record labels are all disappearing. And yeah, it's a different landscape now.
Any more questions from the audience?
No.
Well, if you, we got one more here.
So I think you played Madagascar
Uh-huh.
live. You're doing
And on the
solos,
album,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. But you're doing the solos, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. Is there any other Chinese Democracy songs where you're primarily doing the solos live?
Oh yeah. This Chinese, the song Chinese Democracy, Better.
Nice.
Slash and I switch off in that. Yeah, we divide all that stuff up usually.
Cool.
The Chinese stuff, yeah.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah, so do I. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah?
Do you mind if we hear some just P90 tones from the guitar?
Yeah, yeah. It's a very warm sounding P90, I think. Yeah, it's a cool sound. Yeah, I love this P90. It's a good one. And Paoletti's winding all their own pickups and making these cool shotgun shell knobs. And they do all the metal work themselves. Yeah, these are really special guitars. And I mean, the thing about these they're only going to be able to make so many because they only have so many wine barrels. And really, they're just, I think because it's, you know, this is a 150-year-old piece of wood. And that's why it's so resonant. And I don't know what the wine had to do with it. But they really are phenomenal. Like I said, put it up against any Tele. You know, I'd definitely buy one of these before I'd buy a custom shop Fender. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with those. I'm sure they're good. But when you A/B them, it's pretty night and day to my ears. Anybody else got any questions? Because I'm also gonna sign stuff, and I brought picks for everybody. I'm excited about my new Gravity picks. Have you seen these?
No.
They're cool. I'll give you one.
So Richard, a few years ago, we actually went back to New York and we saw you play with Honky Toast. What's the history behind that?
Honky
And
Toast
Frank
was a
there.
band I had in early 2000s with some really good friends of mine. Well, Frank from Guns N' Roses, our drummer. He was in that band. He also played with me in the Psychedelic Furs. When I joined the Furs, I brought him into it. I brought him into Love Spit Love. He used to be in a band called The Beautiful, and they were on RCA. They supported my first band on some shows in the Midwest. That's how I met Frank. I was in New York writing the first Love Spit Love record, and I was walking down St. Mark's, and I ran into him. He was closing up a shoe shop, and I said, "Hey, I know you." And he goes, "Yeah, what's going on?" And we start talking. I'm like, "What's going on with The Beautiful?" He said, "Oh, we just broke up." And I said, "Well, we're auditioning drummers. You should come and audition." So we've been playing together ever since. So I brought him into that. I brought him into the Furs. I brought him into Honky Toast. And Honky Toast was just some New York friends that it was just like a fun thing that ended up signing a huge record deal with Epic. We did, yeah, it was fun, right? Eric's great, the singer. That was a really fun.
Frank had problems with his seat that night. His stool.
Oh, right.
Watching him try to balance was.
Yeah. That was a fun band. That was a lot of fun. And that record I love too. Andy Johns produced that record. He did all the Zeppelin stuff, and he did like 6 Stones records, and yeah. With Michael H. New York friends again. Yeah. Which one? That was Frank playing with it?
No, it was like a charity.
Oh, okay. Oh, with Charlie Drayton playing. Yeah. One of my favorite drummers of all time. Yeah, that was a cool experience, that band. Anybody else got questions, or should we sign stuff? Yep. She's got a question.
Hi, so thank you so much for being here. When you talk about people that you viewed as gods, that's definitely you to my sons in our house. I'm just wondering, my boys sit around and play guitar all day. It's what they do. They play, but what advice would you have for them in terms of actual practice? What should
just kill it.
what should that look like? Because they just pick up their guitars and they play.
And
but one of them
nothing
especially
wrong with
doesn't
that.
like to
There's nothing wrong
do
with
anything
that,
that's
because
work.
Really sitting around and playing, jamming with recordings is a great way to get better. But someone asked me last night. They said, "How important are scales to you?" And I mean, that's like I was saying. Music is a language. It's a vocabulary. You're building your vocabulary. The larger your vocabulary, the easier it is to convey the message that you want to convey. And you want to get, and that's what scales do for you. That's what your knowledge of intervals does for you, and building that and developing that really allows you to get across what's in your head without, it's like talking. You don't want to stop and have to think about every word. If you ever learned another language, you have to stop and think about structuring your sentence. You want to get to the point where you don't have to think about music. You don't want to have to think about the notes in a given chord. You just want to be able to respond to it and know when you hear Aug 11, what note to emphasize to get this, it just all sort of feeds into itself, so you don't have to think about that. It all just comes out, and that's why we practice. That's why you practice scales. That's why you learn, theory and things like that, but it's tough to really convey that to a kid when you're sitting around learning and you just want to play.
That's why I asked you. They won't listen to me, but they'll maybe listen to you a little bit.
But they'll learn that over time. As they find it more difficult to get across what they want to get across, they're going to learn and get frustrated and want to carry that forward and get better at that. So it will come naturally. They'll want to figure out how to emulate things that turn them on in music, and it'll happen. Thank you. All right, should we go take photos and sign stuff? Are we gonna do that out there?
We got, just so you guys, we have Richard Richard, there's a table at the back of the showroom. We're going to have you seated there, and then we're going to just form a line. If you guys want to get some pictures and some autographs, we'll do that. But thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming. Appreciate it. And if you get a chance, if you're a guitar player, you should definitely try one of these and experience it for yourself, because they're beautiful instruments. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good job, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.